I donated a kidney to save my fiancé. 6 months later, I found him in bed with my best friend. When I demanded answers, he smirked and said, "You wouldn't have donated if I didn't lie." Then they killed me. But fate gave me a second chance. And this time I won't be the one bleeding, I'll be the one burying them. They say you only see someone's true colors when you're at your weakest. That's a lie. You see them when they believe you're completely powerless. And I did. Right before I died. 6 months ago, I lay on the cold tile of my kitchen floor, mouth foaming, throat swelling, heart slowing, because my fiancé Ethan Carter and my best friend Sarah Bennett stood over me and watched me die. They didn't scream. They didn't call an ambulance. They stood there. Waiting. I had donated a kidney to Ethan. 6 months earlier, I had laid on an operating table, sliced open, stitched back together, because I loved him. Because I believed him when he said, "If you get hurt trying to save me, I'd rather die." But when I caught him in bed with Sarah, my best friend of 10 years, he didn't even flinch. "You once said you'd rather die than let me go through the surgery." I choked through my tears. Ethan scoffed. "That was just a line, Madeline. You think I could have gotten you to donate if I didn't act desperate?" I felt something inside me cave. Something vital and innocent. "Then I want a divorce," I said, each word jagged with heartbreak. Sarah laughed. "Divorce? Come on, Maddie. Do you really think you'll come out of this looking like the victim?" Ethan's voice was cold, detached. "I'll accept being widowed. Not divorced." I didn't even notice the bowl of peanuts on the counter. They knew I was allergic. I'd told Ethan within the first month of dating. It was written in bold red ink on every one of my medical files. He'd even joked once, "So I know how to kill you, huh?" That night he did. I collapsed almost instantly. My throat closed before I could scream. My knees buckled. My lungs fought for air like they were drowning. Sarah stood back, crossing her arms. Gloria, Ethan's mother, peered into the kitchen like she was just checking on the roast. 3 people. 3 people I had loved in my own foolish way. All 3 watched me die without a single ounce of remorse. The last thing I heard before the world went dark was Sarah's voice. "With her gone, we inherit everything. The house. The accounts. Jason's sympathy. God will finally be free." And then nothing. Just blackness. When I opened my eyes again, I was alive. Alive, and confused. The light was too bright. The air smelled too sterile. A waiting room. I looked around. St. Augustine Medical Center. Same beige walls. Same ugly green chairs. Sarah Bennett sat across from me, her face lit with excitement as she clutched a medical file in her hand. She looked younger. Fresher. "We matched, Maddie. For matching points. You're a viable donor for Ethan. Isn't that amazing?" She practically squealed, shoving the report at me. I stared at the paper, then at the date in the top right corner. 6 months ago. The day everything changed. The day I gave up my body, my bank account, and my soul to save a man who would later murder me. A cold wave of realization washed over me. I had been reborn. The universe had given me a second chance. In my past life, I remember hugging Sarah in that moment. Calling Ethan with tears of joy. Offering my kidney like it was a wedding gift. This time, I didn't cry. I didn't move. My limbs felt like they were carved from ice. I had the unbearable urge to laugh. But not the kind that lifts your soul. The kind that shatters it. "I'm so happy for you too," Sarah said, her voice giddy with fake sincerity. "You've been together for years and now you can finally do something meaningful for him." I looked at her, really looked at her. The soft curls, the designer handbag I had bought her, the flawless makeup I used to admire. And I saw the snake hiding under that perfect skin. I stood up slowly and walked to the window, my mind racing. In my last life, the moment I agreed to the surgery was the moment I signed my own death certificate. No more. Ethan arrived 10 minutes later. He looked the same, pale, sickly, eyes sunken with fatigue. But also smug. "Hey," he said coolly, sliding into the seat next to me. "So, I guess you matched." His voice was casual, almost bored, like he already knew I'd say yes. I turned to face him, taking in every inch of the man I once thought I'd grow old with. I used to think his silences meant depth. Now I knew they were just hollowness in disguise. I forced a bright, cheerful smile. "All right," I said. "Since you don't want me to donate, I won't." Ethan blinked. "What?" "I mean, you were pretty clear last week." I lied smoothly. You said you didn't want me to go through with it unless I was absolutely sure. I thought about it and, yeah. I'm not. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. Wait. Hold on. I thought you thought I'd throw myself at the chance to cut open my body for someone who barely looks at me anymore? I tilted my head, smile never faltering. Ethan, you're the patient. Your wishes matter. I'm just respecting that. Sarah's mouth opened and closed like a fish on dry land. Madeline, she said, her voice too high, are you sure? I'm sure, I said, breezing past her. I'll let the doctors know. Don't worry, Ethan. I'm sure you'll find someone else. I walked away before I could see the look on his face. I didn't need to. I could already hear the panic building behind his calm exterior. Because he thought he had me wrapped around his finger. But as last time he did. Not this time. That night I stood before my bathroom mirror again. Same face. Same eyes. But something in me had shifted. Something had broken, and something stronger had risen in its place. I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to burn the whole rotten structure to the ground. And watch them choke on the ashes. The hospital lights buzzed faintly overhead, casting long sterile shadows on the linoleum floor. I should have felt anxious, shaken, conflicted. After all, I had just told Ethan Carter, the man I had once loved, that I would not be donating my kidney. But what I felt wasn't guilt. It was liberation. And just under that, cold-blooded anticipation. I knew what would come next. Ethan didn't believe me. Sarah would try to soften me. Gloria would resort to shaming. They'd all play their parts the same way they did in my last life. But this time I wouldn't be the naive donor who believed in love and loyalty. No. This time I was the one holding the scalpel. And every move would cut them down. It didn't take long. The very next morning my phone buzzed. Sarah Bennett. Can we talk? Just us. Ethan's really upset. I let the message sit unread for hours. I knew she'd watch the read status like a hawk, so I opened it at 2 p.m. and sent back a single word. Me. Sure. When I arrived at the cafe, Sarah was already seated, looking like she'd just stepped out of a lifestyle magazine, blow-dried waves, pale pink lipstick and her most sympathetic face. Madeline, she said, voice tinged with concern, I just want to understand what's going on. You seemed so happy yesterday. And now, all of a sudden. I thought about it, I said simply, stirring my coffee. You know Ethan needs this. The doctor said he doesn't have much time without a transplant. I gave a theatrical sigh. I know. That's why I decided it's best not to rush. We're not married yet and it feels inappropriate to make such a sacrifice so soon. Sarah blinked. That wasn't what she'd rehearsed for. But you've been together for years, she said, trying to recover. You've lived together. That practically counts as marriage. I tilted my head, smiling politely. Living together doesn't mean forever. And besides, Ethan's never proposed. The flash of irritation that crossed her face was too fast for most people to notice. But I caught it. I was watching for it. He was going to, she muttered. After the surgery. I sipped my coffee. Sure. By evening the real act began. I stood outside the hallway at St. Augustine Medical Center. A familiar corridor. I remembered standing here once in my old life, buying Ethan's favorite snack from the vending machine, thinking he was napping. He wasn't. And now, just like then, his voice carried through the thin hospital walls. She's bluffing, Ethan said. You saw her face when she left. She'll come crawling back in a few days begging to donate. Sarah's voice followed, softer. But what if she's serious? She's not, Ethan snapped. Madeline worships me. I know her. She'll panic thinking I'll die without her kidney. And when I finally say yes, she'll think I'm giving her the greatest honor in the world. He laughed. Actually laughed. I closed my eyes and listened to him go on. We'll let her donate. I'll marry her, quick ceremony, nothing fancy. And after 6 months we file for divorce. Say it's too much pressure. Claim I have PTSD or something. Courts always sympathize with the sick one. And then? Sarah asked. Ethan's tone turned smug. Then we split everything. And I keep the house. My hand tightened around the match report in my bag. I had once believed he loved me. I had given up pieces of my body for him, cooked for him, stayed through every hospital admission, every mood swing, every moment of silence where I begged for scraps of his affection. And now I knew the truth. He never planned to keep me alive. I walked into the hospital room without knocking. They both jumped, startled. Ethan blinked. Madeline. I'm sorry, I said calmly. I forgot something. I walked to the nightstand, picked up the surgery consent packet I had signed yesterday, and flipped through the stapled sheets. Here it is, I said softly. Then I tore the papers in half. And again. Until they were nothing but ribbons of white. Ethan sat up in bed, his face paling. What are you doing? Sarah stood frozen. I turned to face them, my voice level and even. You've really misunderstood me. I regret getting tested without your consent. That was wrong of me. But after hearing what you just said, it hit me like a bucket of cold water. Ethan looked like he'd swallowed broken glass. I swear on my life, I continued, I will not donate this kidney. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. Sarah finally found her voice. Madeline, come on. Don't be like this. You're overreacting. I'm not done, I said, raising a hand. I turned back to Ethan, my tone chilling. And as for what you said about never loving me, about being with me for my money, I believe you. So I accept your suggestion to break up. From this moment on, we're just two strangers with bad memories. And with that I turned and walked to the door. I had barely touched the handle before Sarah grabbed my wrist. Don't make a scene, she hissed. Apologize to Ethan. I glanced down at her perfectly manicured hand, then looked her square in the eye. Let go, Sarah. Her grip faltered. Ethan, from behind her, barked out, tell her to get lost. The farther the better. So I did. I left. But not far. Just around the corner, enough to hear them when they thought I was gone. Sarah, Jason, what if she really means it? Ethan, she doesn't. She loves me. She always has. Sarah, still she sounded serious. Ethan, relax. This is just a new tactic. Some twisted guilt trip. She'll come back. They always do. I stepped into the elevator, heart pounding, but not from fear. From fury. I had given Ethan every good piece of myself, and he looked me in the eyes and said, I never loved you. But now the game had begun. The first thing I did when I got home was call the housekeeper. Pack all of Ethan's things, I instructed. Ship them to Gloria's address. He can live with his mother. But ma'am. No, but. And change the security code. Effective immediately. I walked into the master bedroom, the same one I had found them in during my last life, and stared at the bed. I pulled off the sheets and stuffed them into garbage bags. By midnight, all traces of him were gone. The next morning, Sarah came to the house, uninvited. I opened the door before she could knock, blocking the entrance. You forgot to change the code, she said flatly. Not anymore. She stared past me at the boxes behind the doorway. You're really doing this? You'd let him die. I shrugged. He said he'd rather die than live with a kidney from someone he doesn't love. I'm honoring his wishes. Her expression hardened. Don't be a martyr, Madeline. No one's going to see you as a hero. I'm not trying to be a hero, I said. Just a woman who finally woke up. Sarah's jaw tightened. If you walk away from this, you're going to look like the villain. Good, I said. That means I'm finally getting the right role. She opened her mouth to say something else, but I reached for the trash bag and handed it to her. Here, I said. His things. Trash belongs with trash. The trash bag hung from Sarah's manicured hand like it was radioactive. I could see the twitch in her mouth, the way her fingers trembled against the plastic, unwilling to fully close around it. It's all Ethan's stuff, I said with a polite smile. You can take it with you when you leave. I figured it saves you a trip. You can't be serious, she muttered, looking at the bag as if it might stain her reputation on contact. Oh, I'm very serious, I said sweetly. After all, you're sleeping with the man. Might as well carry his garbage too. Sarah's face twisted. You've gone insane. No, Sarah, I said, stepping into her space. What's insane is giving a kidney to a man who cheats. What's insane is thinking you could betray me and still be welcomed into my house like a friend. What's insane is expecting me to stay quiet. Her lips parted in indignation, but I didn't give her the chance to speak. Take the bag, I said, placing it gently in her arms. And take the lies with you too. Then I closed the door in her face. And locked it. I stood there for a moment, forehead against the wood, listening to the sound of her heels stomping away. I didn't feel victorious. Not yet. But the numbness that had followed me since my last life's death, it was lifting. I had done it. I had drawn the line. And this time I wouldn't erase it for anyone. By noon the next day, Ethan, Gloria, and Sarah were back. They didn't knock. They barged in, uninvited, unwelcome, and utterly unbothered by shame. My housekeeper, bless her soul, looked cornered by the front entrance, clutching a broom like it was a weapon. "I told them you weren't home," she whispered. "But they just—" "It's all right, Marion. Go rest." As soon as she left, Gloria slammed her palm against the living room table. "Who gave you the right to tear up Ethan's surgery application and the match confirmation?" I walked in slowly, arms folded, taking in the staged performance. Ethan sat on the couch, pale and solemn. Sarah hovered beside him with a worried expression. And Gloria, she looked ready to drag me to the operating room herself. "You've been with him for years," Gloria barked. "Practically his wife already. Saving him isn't just your duty, it's your blessing. You're lucky you even match. Do you want to kneel?" I asked calmly. "What?" she snapped. "You were asking me what I want in exchange to donate, weren't you?" I said. "So tell me, are you planning to kneel for it?" Gloria's face contorted in outrage. "You ungrateful little—" But Ethan interrupted her, his voice sharp and deliberate. "Enough." The room fell quiet. He stood, his eyes fixed on me. He didn't say anything at first, and for a moment I wondered if he had finally realized how far gone I was from the woman he used to manipulate. But then Sarah stepped forward. "Aunt Gloria, maybe don't pressure her," she said with a syrupy tone. "Madeline's just scared. She's worried Ethan won't want her after the transplant. But if he proposed now, I think it would ease her heart." Ethan flinched. I laughed out loud. And it felt so good. "Are you seriously trying to bribe me with a marriage proposal?" I asked. Gloria's scowl vanished, replaced by a triumphant sneer. "Fine. I'll accept that on Ethan's behalf. Once he recovers, you two can get married." "I already said I'm not donating," I replied coldly. "We've broken up. Why are you even here?" That seemed to land like a slap. Ethan's nostrils flared. "You're bluffing. Try me." He stared at me for a long time. His gaze, once arrogant and detached, began to twitch with uncertainty. It was the first crack. "Good." The silence hung too long, so he cleared his throat and said, "I wasn't going to say anything, but since you're misunderstanding me, here it comes. The reason I said I didn't want the kidney wasn't because I don't love you." He paused, fumbling. It's because I didn't want to see you hurt." Liar. Just yesterday he stood in a hospital room and joked about divorcing me 6 months after the surgery. Now he wanted to cry integrity? Sarah jumped in, picking up his cue. "Didn't I tell you, Mads? Ethan was only being mean because he didn't want you to go through pain. He was willing to die for you." She even wiped a fake tear. My smile faded into a look of pity. "Then why is he suddenly okay with it now?" I asked. "Isn't he afraid anymore that I'll suffer after surgery?" Sarah looked stunned. Ethan jumped in. "Because I realized I have a lifetime to make it up to you. Yes, I was hesitant before. But now I want to be with you. For real." He reached into his pocket. A ring box. He knelt down on one knee, holding it out like some grand gesture. Madeline, I'll never look down on you. I'll love you forever. Marry me." I stared at the box. It wasn't even real diamond. I could tell. Probably lab-grown, probably bought in a rush this morning. I looked from Ethan's kneeling figure to Gloria's smug grin and Sarah's trembling, jealous smile. I couldn't stomach it. "Jason," I said softly, using his full name for the first time in years. "I once considered donating my kidney because I didn't want you to die young. But now I realize something important." They all leaned in. "I want to live long enough to take care of my own parents. I want to stay healthy, for me. And let's be clear, you were the one who chased me. You begged me to be with you. I never forced you. So don't act like I'm using a kidney to lock you down. That's delusional." Ethan looked gutted. "That's not fair." "Oh, but it is," I interrupted. "You said it yourself, I'd never be the one to walk away. You were wrong. I'm walking now. But I won't even mind that you'll have only one kidney," he cried desperately. I raised a brow. Correction, I still have two. You were the one who would have made me live with one. He went silent. Gloria looked like she'd swallowed a cactus. Then she snapped. You ungrateful brat. She lunged at me, one hand raised, the other trembling in fury. I dodged her easily, stepping aside like I was sidestepping a drunk tourist on the subway. She stumbled past me and nearly fell flat into the hallway. Sarah gasped and Ethan bolted after her, leaving the door wide open. I didn't follow. I calmly walked to the door, shut it and locked it behind them. Their voices screamed at me from the other side, curses, threats, promises, but I tuned them out. I poured myself a cup of tea and played Debussy over the speakers. The trash had taken itself out. 2 weeks passed. I thought that might be the end of it. But then came the media ambush. A knock at the door. When I opened it, a wall of flashbulbs and microphones greeted me. Cameras. Reporters. Gloria crying on her knees in front of my doorstep. Sarah sobbing into a tissue. Ethan standing behind them, looking pale, worn down, sickly but noble. It was a scene carefully staged. And I was their villain. They were about to find out how badly they'd miscast me. The knock on my door wasn't soft. It was practiced. Timed. Deliberate. I didn't answer right away. I knew what was waiting on the other side. Still, I took my time, sipped my tea, straightened the collar of my silk blouse, and double-checked that the tiny lapel mic I'd hidden on the inner seam was still functioning. It was. Then I opened the door. Flash. 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 A sea of reporters surged forward, blinding lights exploding in rapid succession. Questions overlapped one another, microphones shoved toward my face. Behind them, performing like paid actors on cue, stood the unholy trinity. Gloria Carter on her knees, sobbing. Sarah Bennett, dabbing her dry eyes dramatically. And Ethan, looking pale and gaunt, his hand on Gloria's shoulder, stoic and noble like some tragic Greek hero. Madeline, please, Gloria wept. I'm begging you. Please save my son. The audacity almost made me laugh. Instead, I stepped forward slowly, letting the cameras capture every move. My housekeeper hovered near the stairs, looking anxious. Miss, I tried to stop them, but... It's all right, Marion, I said gently. They came just in time. Gloria pulled out a thick bank book and a few credit cards from her purse, holding them up like peace offerings. You can have everything. All our savings. Just please, donate the kidney. Even if you want me dead, I'll accept it. I'll do anything. Sarah sniffled next to her, now clearly enjoying the crowd. Please don't misunderstand. We're not trying to manipulate anyone. It's just that things are complicated. Then, like a perfectly rehearsed scene, Ethan raised his head and spoke into the cameras. A single tear rolled down his cheek. I never wanted her to suffer. She insisted on getting tested. And then she changed her mind, only after demanding my mother's money. She said if we didn't give her everything, she'd refuse to save me. He looked down, choked up. I can't believe it. I don't want to die. But I also can't sell my mother's dignity for my own life. There was If I stayed silent, I'd look like a selfish, heartless woman. If I denied it, they'd twist my words. If I asked for anything, they'd paint me as a gold digger. But I'd had 2 weeks to prepare. And the moment had arrived. I smiled. Aunt Gloria, I said gently, kneeling down beside her. Please stop this performance. You'll hurt your knees. I helped her up, not for her dignity but because I wanted the cameras to catch everything that came next without obstruction. You say you're offering me everything? I asked, holding up the bank book. Then I opened it. The reporters leaned in, cameras zooming. $15,000? I said, pretending to be shocked. How generous. This bag I'm holding costs more than that. Gloria's face twisted. She hadn't expected me to open it publicly. I know we don't have much, she snapped. But you're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching us beg. If you really cared about Ethan, you'd prove it. Go donate that kidney and shut me up. I tilted my head, then let out a soft sigh. You really think I refused because of money? I turned toward the crowd and the blinking lights. No, I said clearly. I refused because I'm not in perfect health. The doctors told me I'm not an ideal candidate. Donating a kidney could put me at risk. And I care about myself enough now to say no. The three of them visibly relaxed. Ethan's posture loosened. Gloria wiped her tears. Sarah smiled in victory. Perfect. I let the silence stretch just long enough before I added, but don't worry. I consulted with St. Augustine Medical Center and got tested again, just to be sure. Now all three froze. And what do you know? I said brightly. I found out something shocking. I reached into my bag and pulled out 3 envelopes, one for each of them. I asked the doctors to check other family and close friend compatibility while I was at it. Turns out. I opened one and held it up. Sarah Bennett? 5-point match. Gasps echoed. I opened the second. Gloria Carter? 6-point match. Pandemonium. I held up my own. Me? Only 4. Reporters whispered loudly. Flashbulbs exploded again. Which means, I said sweetly, they're both better donors than I ever was. Gloria went stiff. Sarah looked like she'd swallowed glass. But I didn't say anything sooner, I continued, voice honeyed, because I was afraid they wouldn't be willing. Imagine how thrilled I am now to see them so publicly eager. A few cameras lowered. A few reporters started talking. And then the real chaos began. You said this wasn't moral manipulation? One reporter barked at Gloria. Then why didn't you disclose you were a match? Another turned to Sarah. You claim you'd donate in a heartbeat, so why haven't you? Sarah opened and closed her mouth. Well, I wasn't asked. Did you think you could guilt another woman into donating an organ you could have given yourself? Someone shouted. You call this love? Another yelled at Ethan. Gloria tried to speak, but it was useless. The damage was done. The media had turned. I stepped back and let it unfold. Reporters hounded them with questions, not me. Some demanded statements. Others asked about lies. Even more began live-streaming the confrontation, hashtags already appearing in the corners of the camera feeds. Hashtag organ scandal. Hashtag manipulation exposed. Hashtag Madeline was right. The crowd was turning. Exactly as planned. Eventually, the 3 of them stumbled away from my doorstep, pale and speechless. Sarah had tears in her eyes, but they weren't for Ethan. They were for herself. For her pride. Gloria was muttering something about lawyers. Ethan? He didn't even look back. He just walked, a defeated man. But I knew it wasn't over. No, not yet. I closed the door and exhaled. Then I checked my phone. I had hundreds of messages. Most were from strangers. Women thanking me. Men apologizing on behalf of all men. Journalists requesting interviews. Hospitals reaching out with offers of free checkups. It was a small taste of justice. But I wasn't done yet. A week passed. The media frenzy faded, slightly. The public opinion had shifted, yes. But Ethan wasn't someone who accepted defeat. I knew that better than anyone. So I wasn't surprised when he showed up at my doorstep again. No cameras this time. No mother. No mistress. Just Ethan. And rage. You're insane, he shouted the moment I opened the door. How dare you call the hospital and cut off my treatment? You're trying to kill me. I didn't blink. Funny. You didn't mind that idea 6 months ago. His face twisted. This isn't the same. No, it's not, I said flatly. This time I know who you are. I stepped forward, looking him square in the eyes. And this time, I'm not going to let a dying man guilt-trip me into cutting myself open. You heartless. I raised a hand. Don't say it. You're wasting oxygen. He grabbed my arm. After everything I've done for you. What? Cheat on me? Use me? Try to kill me? He froze. And in that stillness I saw it. The first sliver of fear. And I smiled. Here's a reality check, Ethan. Your mother still has money. Sarah still exists. Let them help you. You don't need me. I turned away. You never did. Ethan Carter stood on my doorstep looking like a man who had finally run out of backup plans. No reporters, no Sarah, no Gloria. Just him, furious and desperate, with sweat shining on his brow despite the cool breeze of late spring. How could you cancel my dialysis treatments? He demanded, as if it were the most natural thing in the world for me to keep paying for his survival. I leaned against the doorframe, one brow arched. You're welcome, by the way. His jaw tightened. That money was from my mom's retirement account. She said she'd handle it. I gave a nonchalant shrug. She had 15 grand sitting in her account. I figured she could use it on her own son instead of depending on his ex-girlfriend's credit card. You paid those bills without complaint before. Before, I said calmly, I thought I was saving the man I loved. No. I wouldn't lift a finger if you were on fire. You heartless. Don't, I warned voice steel. Don't say that word unless you're ready to admit who the real monsters are. He fell quiet. Only for a moment. Then he tried a new angle. One that once would have worked on the old me. We were good together, he said. Everyone said I didn't deserve you. That you were too good for me. But I never listened to them. I fought for you. I loved you. You lied to me. Used me. Slept with Sarah. I snapped. That's not love. He stepped forward. I didn't lie about everything. I tilted my head. Really? Then what exactly was the truth, Ethan? That you were planning to marry me only so you could divorce me and take half my money? He didn't respond. Didn't have to. We both knew the answer. You were willing to donate before, he said, shifting back to attack mode. Even after I said those awful things. You still insisted on getting tested. You still filled out the paperwork. I did, I said evenly. Because I was in love with you. Stupidly, recklessly in love. Even when I wanted to leave you, I still planned to go through with it. His mouth dropped open. Then why didn't you? Because of Sarah. He blinked. What about her? I narrowed my eyes. You didn't want her to donate because she's pregnant. The color drained from his face. Bullseye. I didn't know for certain, not yet. But I had a hunch. And I'd learned in this new life that confidence was a better weapon than facts. Don't lie, I said coldly. When Sarah came to me last week, I saw the way she moved. The way she clutched her stomach, refused coffee. She's at least 3 months in, isn't she? That would have made her 5 months pregnant back when you married her in my last life. I saw it. I saw her belly when she took off her coat in winter. His hands trembled. No, he whispered. Yes, I replied. So go ahead. Deny it. But know this. If you ever try to guilt me again, I'll make sure the entire city knows you knocked up my best friend while begging for my kidney. I never meant for this to happen, he muttered. Did you mean to kill me with peanuts? He went silent again. I walked past him, down the front steps and toward the garden gate. I called the hospital and made sure they know you're no longer covered under my name. You're just going to let me die? Did you hesitate when you fed me those peanuts, Ethan? That wasn't me. That was my mom and Sarah. I spun on my heel. And you stood there. Watched. Said nothing. That makes you worse. He flinched. I could have ignored it all, I said. I could have played dumb, married you again, donated my kidney, and let you suck me dry until I had nothing left. But guess what? I got smarter. You're cruel. No, I said. I'm careful. That night, I opened my laptop and played back the audio recording Sarah had given me during her tantrum. The one where Ethan laid out their plan to use me for the kidney, then divorce me and split the assets. Her voice, his voice, it was all there. I didn't need AI to enhance it. But what I did need was leverage. So I clipped the audio, layered it with visuals, and stored it in 5 separate encrypted drives. One with my lawyer. One in cloud storage. One printed and sealed in an envelope marked press release. I wasn't going to strike yet. Not until the final curtain. 2 days later, Sarah came to see me again. This time she didn't bother pretending to cry. You know I've been helping Ethan for years, she said bluntly. I stood by him when you left. You mean when I refused to be blackmailed into surgery? She ignored me. But now you're cutting off treatment. You're letting him die. You think that makes you the good guy? I never claimed to be the good guy, I replied. Just the survivor. She scoffed. You're so smug now, Madeline. So self-righteous. I folded my arms. You're pregnant, aren't you? Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. That's why you're really here, I said. You don't want Ethan to die because then the story gets messy. No father. No inheritance. And no one to blame but yourself. I'll go to the press, she threatened. Then make sure you wear something nice, I said. You're going to need it. She paled, then stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I didn't follow. But I smiled. 2 months passed. I heard nothing from Ethan or Sarah. Gloria had gone completely silent. My life grew quieter, simpler, more free. And then the wedding invitation arrived. Cream cardstock. Gold trim. Ethan Carter and Sarah Bennett. A celebration of love, it read. I RSVP'd yes. Wore a black dress. And brought a smile that could slice glass. The venue was ostentatious, all white florals and string quartets. Sarah stood at the entrance, glowing with pride in her designer wedding gown, her small bump cleverly disguised under the empire waistline. "You came," she said, surprise and satisfaction mixing in her tone. "I wouldn't miss it," I replied. Ethan approached, wearing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Glad you're moving on, Mads. You needed closure." "Sure," I said smoothly. "I was just curious how you managed to throw a wedding without dialysis. Or were you hoping the cake would double as your tombstone?" He didn't reply. Sarah stepped in, smug as ever. "It's because he chose to live his last days with me. With his real love. You tried to manipulate him, remember? That prenup you begged him to sign before you'd agree to the surgery?" I blinked slowly. "What prenup?" Sarah faltered. Ethan's face tensed. "Perfect." "Oh," I said, tilting my head. "You mean the prenup I never mentioned? The one that doesn't exist?" They both looked like ghosts. I turned to the crowd. "I need to use the restroom. Don't worry. I'll be back in time for the bouquet toss." That night I went home, opened a bottle of wine and waited. 2 weeks later the headline broke. "Tragic honeymoon accident leaves woman and unborn child dead." Sarah Bennett had fallen down the stairs at their resort in Monteverde. Doctors couldn't save her or the baby. And as her legal next of kin, Ethan Carter received her kidney. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I expected it. I'd always expected it. 3 months after Sarah's funeral he came back. He rang the doorbell like he owned it. The same way he once rang in after chemo treatments, expecting soup and silence. The same way he walked into my home carrying nothing but expectations and entitlement. But this time I didn't answer right away. This time I made him wait. When I opened the door, Ethan stood there in a crisp navy suit. His hair was neatly combed, skin flushed with new health. The kidney had taken. He looked better than ever. Stronger. Taller. Confident. Disgusting. "Madeline," he said, voice smooth. "You look radiant." "Healthy kidney suits you," I replied. "How's the grieving husband routine coming along?" A flicker crossed his expression. But he was quick to hide it. "I came to talk," he said, stepping over the threshold without invitation. "Of course you did," I muttered, closing the door behind him. Nothing brings a man back faster than a clean bill of health and a dead wife. He sat on the edge of the sofa as if unsure whether this was a negotiation or a confession. "I'm sure you've heard," he began, "about what happened to Sarah." "Hard not to. The news cycle milked it for 2 weeks." He nodded slowly, hands clasped. "It was a terrible accident. An accident where your pregnant wife fell down a flight of stairs while you were the only other person in the villa," I said dryly. "Tragic." He ignored the insinuation. "She left everything to me," he said softly, like it meant something noble. "And, after receiving her kidney, I've recovered. The doctors say I've got a second chance." I crossed my arms. So I came to give you 2 options," he said, standing. I blinked. He took a step forward. "Option 1, we get married. You sign over your assets to me and we move on from this mess. You keep your life, your family, your business. I don't ruin you." He let that sink in before continuing. "Option 2, I kill you. The same way Sarah died. Quiet. Painless. You eat 1 peanut and go to sleep forever. No one will question it." He smiled like a child offering 2 equally terrible gifts. My blood ran cold, but only for a second. Then I smiled right back. "Option 3, I said sweetly. "I serve you and your dear mother the peanuts myself." There was a beat of silence. Then from behind him, Gloria stepped out of the hallway holding a small crystal bowl. Inside, peanuts. Coated in honey and malice. He smiled at me, smug. "It's poetic, don't you think? You die the way you once almost did." Full circle. Ethan moved toward me, slow and steady. I didn't run. I didn't scream. Instead, I stepped back into the living room and said the words I'd been waiting to say for months. "Now." The master bedroom door burst open. 8 police officers rushed into the house like a storm. "Hands up," one barked. Ethan froze. Gloria screamed. Within seconds, both were on the floor, wrists cuffed, legs pinned. One officer read the charges aloud. "Ethan Carter and Gloria Carter, you are under arrest on suspicion of involvement in the premeditated murder of Sarah Bennett and attempted murder of Madeline Grant." "What?" Gloria screeched. You can't do this. This is her setup. Oh, I can, I said, approaching calmly. You two thought I'd just let you in without precautions? They struggled against the officers as I walked over to the glass coffee table and picked up the small voice recorder I'd placed there earlier. Sarah's death was ruled an accident, I said. But I knew better. So I had your house bugged. Your phone tapped. Your threats recorded. Gloria twisted on the floor. She's lying. Ethan glared up at me, pure venom in his eyes. You'll regret this, Madeline. No, I said softly. You will. They were dragged out of my house that day, still cursing, still screaming, their faces splashed across every news channel within the hour. I didn't speak to the media. I didn't have to. The audio spoke for itself. In one clip, Ethan was heard saying, I'll let her die if I have to. Sarah's just a vessel. Once the baby's born, we'll figure something out. In another, Gloria whispered, we'll wait until the painkillers kick in, then push her down the stairs. Accidents happen. The public turned on them like vultures. The trial was swift. Evidence airtight. Motive undeniable. Ethan was sentenced to death. Gloria too. The court declared Sarah's death a murder, retroactively amended on the grounds of new evidence. As for me, I was called the girl who came back from the grave. I visited Ethan one last time. He sat in a gray jumpsuit behind reinforced glass, his skin pale again. His hair thinner. His face hollowed. The new kidney was failing. He wouldn't last until his execution. Good. I'm surprised you came, he muttered. I wanted to watch you rot, I said, sitting across from him. But this is good enough. He laughed bitterly. You played us all. You even faked the surveillance footage of Sarah. You had me convinced. I leaned in, ice cold. That was real. He blinked. What? The AI-generated footage you think I used? Well, that was real. You and your mother were sloppy. Sarah came to me before she died, offered to sell you out. He gave me everything. She was tired. She was scared. His face crumbled. I came to say goodbye, I whispered. And thank you. Because if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have learned how to survive. I wouldn't be this sharp. This strong. I stood up and smiled down at him, radiant and free. Goodbye, Ethan. He called after me. Something bitter, something broken. But I didn't look back. Outside the prison gates, I exhaled deeply and raised my face to the sun. I had won. They tried to use my body. Take my money. Steal my life. But I took everything back and more. Sarah was gone. The child she carried too. But I didn't mourn them. I mourned the version of me who had once loved Ethan Carter with her whole foolish heart. She died that day in the kitchen, gasping for air on cold tile. And I, Madeline Grant, was born in her place. Reborn not with vengeance but with vision. The press moved on quickly as they always do. Headlines shifted from society fiancé turned murderer to celebrity breakups, stock crashes, and the usual political circus. The world's outrage faded into murmurs. But mine calcified. Because I knew something no one else did. Ethan Carter wasn't just evil, he was meticulous. Calculating. He never left things to chance. Which meant Sarah Bennett's death wasn't a fluke. It was a plan. And he'd gotten what he wanted from it. Her kidney. So when they told me he was deteriorating again, that his body had started rejecting the transplant, I didn't feel relief. I felt suspicion. The news came quietly. My lawyer called on a Monday morning. Jason's condition has worsened, he said. Gloria died last week in prison, stroke. No visitors. No remorse. One down. And Ethan. He won't make it to the execution. I stared at the morning sky outside my balcony. The clouds looked like ash smudged across pale blue. He wants to see you, the lawyer added. Requested it personally. I sipped my tea. Let the silence draw out. I'll go, I said finally. But not to say goodbye. Ethan was confined to a medical wing now. No bars, just heavy security and white walls that felt too sterile for someone so poisonous. When I walked in, he was propped up in bed, thin again, pale as moonlight. His eyes lit up when he saw me. Madeline, he rasped. You came. I said nothing. Just took the seat across from him. You look incredible, he said. Like, you've never been better. I have, I replied. Right after they hauled you away in cuffs. He smiled faintly. I knew you'd come. I always knew. And I knew you'd ask, I said. You never do anything without wanting something. He coughed hard and wet. It's true. I wanted you to see me. Like this. Not because I want pity. But because. He paused. Because I want to know why you did it. I narrowed my eyes. Did what? He leaned forward slightly, sweat dotting his forehead. All of it. The recordings. The public ambush. The setup. The fake footage of Sarah visiting you. Why? What did I do that made you destroy me like this? I tilted my head, voice low. You really don't know? I never touched you. Never forced you. You donated willingly. You moved in willingly. You even filled out the surgery application on your own. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I stood up. You know what, Ethan? I said. You're right. His brow furrowed. I did all of those things willingly. And I almost did it again. Even after you said the cruelest things. Even after you cheated on me. Even after Sarah spat in my face. I stepped closer. I still planned to donate. Because I loved you that much. I left the house that day intending to sign the surgery paperwork. He blinked rapidly. Then why didn't you? I smiled coldly. Because Sarah came to see me. His entire face stiffened. And she told me everything, I continued. About your plan. About how you were going to marry me then divorce me. About how you'd been mocking me behind my back. How Gloria coached you both to manipulate me. He looked like he'd swallowed acid. You're lying, he said hoarsely. Am I? I raised a brow. Then maybe you'll remember this. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone, tapped the screen and played the recording. Sarah's voice, crackling but clear. If you give me $5 million, I'll tell you everything. Jason never loved you. He just wanted your kidney. That whole proposal was fake. Gloria helped plan it. Ethan slumped back, eyes hollow. I didn't want it to be true, I said. But hearing her say it made everything crystal clear. He didn't speak for a long time. And when he did, his voice was a whisper. She betrayed me. No, I corrected. You betrayed her first. She was just better at surviving. I turned to leave, but he called out weakly, wait. I paused. Just tell me one thing, he said. That footage of Sarah coming to your house. That wasn't real, was it? The surveillance video you showed me at the wedding? I slowly turned back. And smiled. It was AI, I said smoothly. I paid someone to fake it. His face contorted in horror. I wanted you to believe she sold you out, I continued, walking toward the door. Because if you believed she betrayed you, I knew it would destroy you more than I ever could. Why? He choked. I looked over my shoulder, calm as still water. Because you tried to kill me. Because you thought my love made me weak. Because I died for you once. And that was once too many. He was crying when I left. I didn't bother to say goodbye. He died 2 days later. The prison released a short statement. Complications due to transplant rejection. No funeral. No flowers. No mourning. Just death. Quiet. Unremarkable. I visited Gloria's grave only once. To place a small sachet of peanuts on the tombstone. No one ever thought to give you what you gave me, I said softly. So I brought them for you myself. Then I walked away. A month passed. And with every sunrise I breathed easier. I didn't look over my shoulder anymore. I didn't flinch at doorbells. The nightmares faded. And one morning I woke up to birdsong and sunlight and realized. I wasn't just alive. I was free. I didn't just survive Ethan Carter. I buried him. And every twisted part of me that had once needed his love. I no longer measured my worth in sacrifice. I no longer begged to be seen. I didn't live to be chosen. I chose myself. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I think they're wrong. Revenge, when done right, is warm. Steady. Slow cooked over the fire of every betrayal, every insult, every moment you begged for crumbs and were handed scorn instead. When it's finally ready, it tastes like freedom. And I'd never eaten better in my life. The day Ethan Carter died, I didn't light a candle. I didn't shed a tear. I booked a first-class ticket to Santorini, ordered a glass of champagne, and left my phone on airplane mode for 2 weeks. When I opened my eyes on that bright white balcony overlooking the Aegean Sea, I knew my second life had finally begun. At first, I didn't know what to do with myself. What does a woman who's already died do with all the time she never thought she'd have? I started small. I took long walks. Deleted old numbers. Burned Ethan's letters. Donated the last of his clothes to charity, not to cleanse but to reclaim space. I stopped flinching when someone knocked on my door. Stopped glancing at headlines wondering if my name was trending. Stopped waiting for the next betrayal. The silence was luxurious. 3 months after Ethan's death, I visited the hospital for a full workup. My body was healthy. My kidney? Intact. Perfect. Have you considered being an organ donor? The doctor asked, flipping through my file. I used to, I replied with a faint smile. Not anymore. He looked puzzled but didn't press. Some choices are too private for explanations. People started reaching out. Old friends. Coworkers. Even Sarah's estranged sister, who sent me a long email filled with apologies and words I hadn't realized I'd needed to hear. I never believed Sarah was capable of that, she wrote. But I see now I never really knew her. I'm sorry for what you went through. I replied only once. Thank you. I didn't survive it, I rewrote it. Eventually I moved. Not far, just far enough that no one could find me without trying. A cozy villa tucked into the hills of Spring Haven, with ivy crawling over stone walls and a garden that bloomed even in winter. The locals knew me as Maddie. The quiet woman who wore wide-brimmed hats, drank espresso with a book in hand, and sometimes laughed a little too hard when the mailman asked, "No husband? No kids?" "Nope," I always said, smiling. Just peace. It wasn't loneliness. It was liberation. I had loved too deeply once, so deeply it nearly killed me. Now I kept my heart close and my standards higher. No one walked through my door unless they knocked. No one touched my soul unless they bled for it. On the anniversary of my death, that first one, I hosted a dinner. Just me. Candlelit table. A full plate. A glass of the finest red I could find. I raised a toast. To the woman who died on her kitchen floor, I whispered. She deserved better. So I gave it to her. And I ate every bite. But justice. It wasn't just about Ethan and Gloria. No. Justice was knowing that I'd never again be tricked by a man's good looks and softer lies. That no one could wave a ring and make me forget my worth. That I had learned to say no and mean it, even when the whole world screamed otherwise. Justice was how I spent my money now. Not saving leeches like Ethan but funding scholarships for girls in science and medicine. Launching a nonprofit for women wronged by caregivers and partners. Justice was the emails from women like me saying, "You helped me leave." Justice was waking up without dread. One morning I got a letter. Handwritten. No return address. But the handwriting? Familiar. It was from the doctor who had overseen Ethan's transplant. Dear Miss Grant, I just wanted you to know, Ethan's kidney didn't fail due to rejection. It was poisoned. We found traces of anticoagulant toxins in his bloodstream. No foul play was proven. The prison staff believed it was smuggled contraband. Possibly suicide. But I thought you deserved the truth. You were listed as next of kin until the very end. I thought that might mean something to you. It didn't. But I smiled anyway. I folded the letter and slipped it into the fireplace. Watched it burn. Then poured myself tea. People asked me once what I wanted most. In my first life the answer had been love. In this one, laughter. Quiet mornings. Fresh basil in the garden. Sunlight without shadows. One spring afternoon a journalist tracked me down. Young, polite, eager. She asked if I'd be willing to do an interview. For what? I asked, genuinely curious. Your story, she said. The woman who gave a kidney, got betrayed and came back swinging. You're a legend online. They call you the ghost bride of Willow Creek. I laughed so hard I cried. Miss Grant, she said hesitantly. Would you be willing to share your truth? I looked at her. Then out at my garden. Then back at her. Not yet, I said gently. Maybe someday. But right now. I'm still writing it. And that was the truth. Because even after all the battles were won, after all the names cleared and revenge served, I wasn't done living. Not for vengeance anymore. But for joy. For sunlight. For myself. Final line. They tried to bury me in betrayal. But I came back with roots so deep no storm could shake me again. The end.